Hello, welcome to my easy to understand guide to Attitude online magazine and audiences. Attitude is an optional set text for the EDUCAS A-Level Media Studies exam component 2. Not all schools study Attitude, but if you do, you do need to know a lot about it. So in terms of how they target men in particular, there's obviously the stereotype that men aren't that emotional, sorry guys, and so a lot of the content on the Attitude website is very factual and it's not particularly emotional material. So there's lots of facts and statistics, and even when they do interviews, it's about the history of the person or their opinions, but it doesn't go into kind of deep emotions, and so that might be a way of them targeting a male audience. And there's also quite a lot of clickbait type article headlines. So like on the homepage, you can see lots of headlines and images that have been designed to feel salacious, exciting, risky, whatever it might be. And that is designed specifically to get audiences to click further into the website. Because don't forget, the more clicks you get, then potentially the more you can charge for advertising as well. Unfortunately, gentlemen, we also stereotype men and say that they are less likely to want to read in lots of detail. So the Attitude website has lots of images and lots of short chunked paragraphs, making it easy to read and understand. Obviously, you can tell from just looking at the pages of the website that virtually every picture is of a man, and almost all the stories are about men and their lifestyles. And so it's very clear that men are the target audience here. They would be able to recognise themselves and identify with a lot of the stories. The age group of 25 to 55 is kind of obvious again when you look at the pictures. A lot of the types of celebrities that they choose fall into that age category, or they would be people that people in that age band would recognise from their youths. So, the choice of various celebrities is something that you might want to look at. There's also quite a big focus on like retro 90s, whether that's 90s fashion, 90s music, 90s films, 90s pop culture. And that's because a lot of that age range, people aged 25 to 55, lived through that 90s period or are quite familiar with it. It would give them this feeling of nostalgia, reminding them of their youth, and it would engage them in a way that perhaps more modern content might not. There is use of social media, and actually with Attitude you do also need to look at their social media pages and not just the website. You can see that their choice of social media reflects that age group as well. So the choice of Facebook and Twitter, but not Snapchat or TikTok, does suggest that the target audience is in that 25 to 55 age range. There's a lot of political stories, lots of current affairs, stories from around the world. And so we tend to assume that very young people might not be interested in politics. So the inclusion of so much political content on their website might suggest that their audience is older and more mature and more interested in that kind of content. Whereas most online websites feature a high level of social interaction available for audiences, so things like the ability to like and comment and share, Attitude magazine really does not feature any interactive content at all. There's very little that audiences can actually do on the website apart from just read the stories, and that might suggest a slightly older target audience as well, because interactive content is a great way of engaging young target audiences, but perhaps those people in their 40s and 50s might not expect it as much. They also promote the print version of the magazine quite a lot on the website. So there's lots of mentions of the print magazine, lots of pictures of it, links to subscribe, and really focusing on that print version is another indication that the target audience is perhaps a little older, because those people in their 40s and 50s might still be buying print magazines, whereas younger audiences perhaps might have left print magazines behind now. The target audience for Attitude is kind of A, B, C, 1 in the socio-economic groups. That means they're quite wealthy, reasonably middle class. And so you can tell by looking at the adverts that are used on the website. The adverts are for high-end brands, brands like Gucci. And so it's this indication that the target audience must have enough money to perhaps buy those brands and designers. So the use of adverts to target particular audiences in terms of their wealth is a good indication of who their demographic is. Lots of focus on looking good, building muscle and grooming. There's that kind of element of the metrosexual man on their website. And so there's a lot of focus on consumerism, consumption, buying products to look better and to feel better and to look better to others. The other part of the audience may fall into that reformer category. Now, reformers want to reform or make change to society. They're those people who, perhaps really care deeply about social, political, community issues and want to, make changes that they feel communities would benefit from. So there's lots of emphasis on political stories, people who have been bullied, people who've been assaulted, issues to do with racism, homophobia, transgender issues and transgender rights. And so those stories might particularly appeal to those reformer type audiences. There's quite a lot of formal, complex language on the website. There's not, slang, there's not a huge amount of colloquialisms, urban language. It tends to be quite formal English. And that might indicate that ABC1 demographic. We tend to assume, and again, this is very much a stereotype, but we tend to assume that those people in that demographic are perhaps more educated and so more likely to use that formal language. Lots of middle class interests referenced on the website as well, things like going to the theatre and 5-star luxury holidays and things like that, things that people could only really afford if they had a reasonable amount of disposable income. Obviously, the target audience for Attitude is primarily gay. So there's lots of references to the pride flag, sort of rainbow colours and symbolism on the website. Lots of stories about the LGBTQ community and in particular gay men. There are a lot of stories about issues that gay men might encounter in their own lives. So stories about things like homophobic bullying, assault, issues to do with coming out. So lots of stories that gay male target audience would be able to identify with potentially. There's also a big inclusion of LGBT celebrities as well. So people who may represent the gay male community or other aspects of the LGBTQ community as well. Or they may be celebrities that are particular icons within the gay community. So people that we tend to think that the gay community is a big supporter of. There's a real lack of stories about kind of families and children on the website. So it's very much an indicator that the kind of people reading this online magazine are single and without their own children, and perhaps that, children aren't even on their horizon at the moment. The focus is very much on entertainment and having fun and luxury holidays, adults only holidays and dating and going out and enjoying their leisure time. So very much indicative that the readers of Attitude magazine online are single and carefree. They've made an attempt to appeal to global audiences because they've got a lot of global content which they've syndicated from other websites online. So there's lots of stories from around the world, whether that's political issues or celebrity articles, and that would hopefully engage a wider, more global audience and not just British ones. So a lot of audiences would find this website quite informative. There's lots to be educated by, lots of stories that are going to teach them about politics, about justice, about social issues and social change. It's also going to be very entertaining for audiences, lots of celebrity-based content, interviews, videos, and stuff that is going to feel exciting and potentially quite dramatic from a lot of the headlines. There's actually very little on the market in terms of online magazines that are targeted particularly at LGBTQ audiences. So Attitude magazine fills this kind of niche gap in the market. And so audiences, potentially, particularly those who are in that LGBTQ community, may feel that sense of identity, the fact that they can perhaps relate to a lot of the stories in the magazine, and that is going to draw them in as well. They feel that there is somebody else that understands them, somebody that is going through the same issues as them. Some audiences may feel that the magazine doesn't represent them at all and that is not particularly engaging for them. So whilst it markets itself as a kind of gay male magazine with you know, a lot of content for the LGBTQ community. Some audiences may feel that the focus is very much on gay men and leaves out a lot of the other parts of that LGBTQ community. So there's virtually nothing about lesbians, for example, in the magazine or on the website, which, you know, it's understandable if it's a niche magazine aimed at a very specific target audience. But it does mean that the magazine is not necessarily going to appeal to the whole LGBTQ community. There are definitely going to be people from that community who are going to feel the magazine is still not totally accessible and totally representative of them. So that was my easy to understand guide to audiences in Attitude, the online magazine. Don't forget to click subscribe to get updated with all the other videos I'm uploading about Attitude, as well as Zoella and lots of the other A-level set texts and optional texts for A-level. And don't forget to leave a comment below if there's a particular video you want that I don't already have, and I will see what I can do.